The message appeared on every screen across the planet simultaneously. No warning, no static, just 12 words that changed humanity forever. To the people of Earth, choose war, face the consequences. You have been warned. In Seoul, Dr. Kim Hannah stared at her laboratory monitor, fingers frozen above her keyboard. The xenolinguistics specialist had spent her career searching for extraterrestrial communications. Now that one had arrived, cold dread settled in her stomach. "Director Park, you need to see this," she called. Park Ju-woo, director of the Korean Space Communication Center, rushed to her station. His normally composed face paled as he read the message. "Is this global?" he asked. Hannah nodded. "Reports coming in from every continent. Same message, same time, across all devices. Someone, something, has complete access to our communications infrastructure." Within hours, the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Hannah found herself on a video call with military leaders, scientists, and politicians from across the globe. "This is clearly a threat," declared General Lee Dong-un of the Korean Defense Force. "We must prepare for possible invasion. Or it could be a test," Hannah countered. The syntax suggests a choice being offered, not just a threat. "I believe we're dealing with something beyond our understanding of warfare." As the debate raged, Hannah noticed something in the transmission data, subtle patterns that no human communication would contain. The message wasn't just a warning. It was an invitation. Hannah worked through the night, analyzing the strange code hidden within the transmission. Her eyes burned from staring at screens for too long, but she couldn't stop. This was why she had become an xenolinguistics expert. "There's a mathematical sequence here," she told Director Park the next morning. "It repeats in a pattern that matches certain star formations." The world outside was in chaos. People filled the streets, some in panic, others in prayer. Military vehicles rolled through major cities. Fighter jets patrolled the skies. Hannah ignored it all. She sent her findings to colleagues around the world, forming a small team of scientists who believed the message contained more than a threat. 5 days after the initial message, Hannah made a breakthrough. She burst into the emergency command center where Director Park was meeting with government officials. "I found it," she said, out of breath. "The message contains coordinates, specific locations on Earth." The officials looked at her with suspicion and hope. "What locations?" asked the defense minister. 7 sites, all of them ancient places. The first pyramid in Egypt, Stonehenge, a temple in Peru, and 4 others, including one here in Korea, the oldest astronomical observatory in Gyeongju. General Lee scoffed. "And what does that tell us?" "That they've studied our planet. We already assumed that." "No," Hannah said firmly. "It tells us they've been here before. These aren't random places. They're sites where humans first looked to the stars with purpose." Within 24 hours, research teams were dispatched to all 7 locations. Hannah led the team to Gyeongju, to the ancient stone observatory built over 1,300 years ago. When they arrived, they found something that wasn't in any historical record: strange markings on stones that had been buried beneath the observatory. Markings that matched patterns in the alien transmission. "They'd visited us before," Hannah whispered as she ran her fingers over the ancient symbols. "Perhaps many times." Reports came in from the other sites, similar discoveries at each location. Proof that Earth had been visited, studied, and perhaps guided by whoever had sent the message. The global response remained divided. Some nations continued military preparations. Others called for restraint. Religious leaders claimed the message confirmed ancient texts about gods who came from the sky. 10 days after the initial transmission, Hannah presented her findings to the UN Security Council. The chamber was tense, filled with leaders who hadn't slept properly in days. "These beings have watched humanity develop," she explained. "The evidence suggests they visited during key moments in our history, when we began to develop agriculture, writing, astronomy. They've been patient observers. Until now." A Russian general interrupted. "Why threaten us now?" I don't believe it's a threat, Hannah said. I think it's a test. They're asking us to choose between two paths, continued violence or something else. The message says, choose war, face the consequences. It doesn't say they will attack us. It suggests war itself is the consequence. As the debate continued, news arrived that strange objects had been detected entering Earth's atmosphere, 7 crystalline structures, each descending toward one of the ancient sites. Hannah rushed back to Korea. Fighter jets were already scrambling as she arrived at the observatory site. Military personnel surrounded the area. You must call them off, she pleaded with General Lee. If they attack, we fail the test. We defend our planet, Dr. Kim, he replied coldly. The crystalline object descended slowly, glowing with blue-white light. It was beautiful, not threatening, shaped like a perfect geometric form no human had seen before. General Lee ordered the jets to hold position but remain ready. Hannah stepped forward alone, against the shouts of the soldiers. The object stopped 10 meters above the ancient observatory. A beam of light emerged, touching the ground. Within the light, symbols appeared, the same ones from the hidden markings. Hannah approached slowly. When she stepped into the light, the symbols changed, forming patterns she somehow understood. They want to know our choice, she called back to the others. They say humanity stands at a crossroads. They've watched us develop technology capable of destroying ourselves. They want to know if we're ready to join a galactic community. General Lee approached cautiously. And if we're not? Then they leave us alone, Hannah translated, to either destroy ourselves or eventually evolve. The choice is ours. The general stared at the beautiful, impossible object hovering before them. Slowly, he gave orders for the jets to stand down. Tell them, he said quietly, that at least some of us choose peace. Hannah nodded and stepped fully into the light. The real conversation with humanity's ancient watchers had finally begun. 2 weeks after the alien message appeared on every screen across Earth, humanity had split into 2 opposing groups. Some wanted peace, others prepared for war. In Washington, D.C., General Choi Min-ho slammed his fist on the polished table of the Pentagon War Room. Maps and satellite images covered the walls. Military leaders from various countries sat around the table, faces grim. We cannot show weakness, General Choi said. Earth must demonstrate our strength and resolve. His voice carried authority earned through decades of military service. At 62, his hair had turned silver, but his body remained strong and his mind sharp. He had fought in wars and knew that showing weakness invited attack. The 7 crystal ships remain in position above the ancient sites, said Admiral Yang. They've made no aggressive moves. Yet, General Choi replied. That's how they want us to think. Lure us into complacency before they strike. The military coalition led by General Choi had already begun activating old defense systems and preparing space weapons, despite having no clear target to aim at. Soldiers worked around the clock. Missile silos opened. Submarines moved into strategic positions. On the other side of the world in Geneva, a very different meeting took place. UN Ambassador Kang Ji-young stood before representatives from 90 countries. At 45, she had spent her career building peace between nations. Now she hoped to build peace between worlds. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already, she said calmly. Their technology is clearly far beyond ours. This is about diplomacy, not firepower. Many nations agreed with her. Others remained uncertain, caught between fear and hope. Dr. Kim Hannah had barely slept since the crystal ships arrived. She worked with researchers from around the world, connecting through video calls at all hours. They shared discoveries from ancient texts across different civilizations. Look at this, said Professor Oliveira from Brazil, holding up an old manuscript. These symbols from ancient Amazonian tribes match the patterns we found in the transmission. Similar discoveries came from Egypt, China, Mexico, and Iraq. The Sumerians, Maya, and early Korean dynasties all contained hidden references to beings they called the watchers who tested humanity's readiness for greater knowledge. Hannah stared at her screens in amazement. "They've been guiding us for thousands of years," she whispered. That evening, she called Ambassador Kang on a secure line. "They've been here before," Hannah explained, her voice urgent. "And they're not threatening us. They are evaluating us, like teachers checking if students are ready for the next level." Ambassador Kang listened carefully. "This supports what I've been saying. But General Choi and his allies are preparing for war. They've moved weapons into space." "That's exactly what the aliens don't want," Hannah said. The message was clear. Choose war. Face the consequences. "I'll try to convince more countries to support a peaceful approach," Ambassador Kang promised. But fear is powerful. That night, as General Choi reviewed plans for a defensive strike against the crystal ships, something unexpected happened. Military bases worldwide experienced simultaneous power failures. Weapon systems went offline for exactly 7 minutes before restoring. At the Pentagon, emergency lights cast red shadows across confused faces. "What happened?" General Choi demanded when the main lights returned. "Sir, we lost power at every military installation globally," a young officer reported. "Nuclear systems, satellites, everything went dark simultaneously." "How is that possible?" the general asked. "It's not possible, sir. Not with our understanding of technology." Another officer spoke up. "Sir, reports indicate no damage occurred. Nothing was destroyed or permanently disabled." General Choi understood the message. It was a demonstration. The aliens could have destroyed Earth's defenses, but chose not to. They simply showed what they could do. In Korea, Hannah received an alert about the power failure. She rushed to the observatory where the crystal ship still hovered. The ancient stones glowed with soft blue light beneath the ship. "You're trying to show us something," she said to the ship. "You want peace." The symbols on the ground shifted and formed new patterns. Hannah carefully translated. "Choose PAT. War brings end. Peace brings beginning." She immediately called Ambassador Kang. "The aliens have sent a new message. They're giving us a choice between two futures." While they talked, military leaders around the world held emergency meetings. Some saw the power failure as evidence they should stand down. Others, like General Choi, saw it as proof they needed stronger defenses. "If they can disable our weapons so easily, we need new weapons they can't control," he argued. But doubt had entered the minds of some military leaders. Admiral Yang looked troubled. "General, perhaps we should consider other approaches. They could have destroyed us, but didn't." "That's what they want you to think," General Choi insisted. "This is the greatest threat humanity has ever faced." The world remained divided. News channels showed people building shelters alongside others holding peace rallies. Religious leaders called for prayer. Scientists worked without sleep to understand the visitors. 1 week after the power demonstration, Ambassador Kang addressed the UN General Assembly. "We stand at a historic crossroads," she said. "For the first time, humanity must make a unified decision. These beings have watched our progress for millennia. They've seen our wars, our cruelty, but also our art, our compassion, our potential." She paused, looking at the faces of world leaders. "They're not asking us to surrender. They're asking us to evolve, to choose a better path than the one that has led us to create weapons that could destroy our own planet. This is our chance to show we're ready for something greater." Her speech moved many, but not all. The world remained divided. In his office, General Choi received reports of new weapon systems being developed to target the crystal ships. "We'll be ready within days," his aide reported. The general nodded, but for the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. He looked at photos of his grandchildren on his desk. "Are we making the right choice?" He wondered silently as night fell over a world balanced between war and peace. The new object appeared in Earth orbit without warning. One moment empty space, the next moment filled with something impossible. The massive crystalline structure was larger than anything humans had ever built. It defied radar and thermal imaging. Scientists couldn't measure it properly. It simply wasn't there, until suddenly it was. News of its arrival spread quickly. People gathered in streets, looking up at the sky, though the object was too far to see with naked eyes. Some prayed, some cried. Most just waited to see what would happen next. In the UN Observation Center in New York, Dr. Kim Hanna stood beside world leaders watching the live feed from space telescopes. The crystal mothership dwarfed the 7 smaller vessels that had appeared at the ancient sites. Its surface shifted with colors that human eyes had never seen before. "What are they doing?" asked President Park Min-seo of Korea, her voice tight with concern. "Waiting," Hanna replied. "They've made their presence known. Now they watch our response." General Choi Min-ho entered the room, surrounded by military advisors. His face looked grim and determined. He nodded briefly to President Park, but didn't acknowledge Hanna. "Madam President, we've analyzed the alien vessel. It's positioned directly above our planet's communication satellites. This is clearly a strategic move to control or disable our global communications." "We don't know that," Hanna objected. "They haven't interfered with any systems." General Choi continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I've consulted with military leaders from our coalition. We've prepared a limited defensive response to test their capabilities and demonstrate that Earth will not be intimidated." President Park frowned. "No action should be taken without agreement from all nations. We're still discussing our approach." "With respect, Madam President, we cannot afford to wait. The coalition has authorized me to proceed." Before anyone could stop him, General Choi turned to his aide and said, "Execute Operation Guardian." The aide spoke into his communication device. On the large screen showing the alien mothership, 3 small dots appeared from Earth, rising quickly toward the crystal structure. "What have you done?" gasped Ambassador Kang Ji-young, who had been quietly observing. "Hypersonic missiles," General Choi explained calmly. "Non-nuclear, just enough to test their defenses." Hanna felt sick. "You've just chosen war for all of humanity." They watched in tense silence as the missiles approached the mothership. Just before impact, something strange happened. The missiles simply vanished. No explosion, no impact. They ceased to exist. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then every screen, phone, and electronic device on Earth displayed the same message. "You have chosen. Prepare for judgment." Panic spread across the globe. In major cities, traffic stopped as drivers abandoned their cars. In the observation center, leaders argued loudly, blaming General Choi for his unauthorized action. "What have you brought upon us?" President Park demanded. Before General Choi could answer, a bright light filled the center of the room. People covered their eyes. When they could see again, a tall figure stood among them. The being looked almost human, but not quite. It had the basic shape of a human, but its skin glowed with an inner light that shifted colors like the mothership. Its eyes were large and completely black, reflecting the room like perfect mirrors. Similar beings appeared simultaneously in other centers of power around the world: the White House, the Kremlin, Beijing's Great Hall of the People, and others. They all looked identical. No one spoke. No one moved. Then Hanna stepped forward. "You are the ones who sent the message," she said. It wasn't a question. The being turned to her. When it spoke, its voice sounded like multiple voices layered together, yet perfectly clear. "You understood our message correctly, Dr. Kim Hanna. We are not here to conquer, but to determine if humanity deserves to join the greater community." The room remained silent, leaders of Earth too shocked to speak. Finally, President Park found her voice. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "To see which path you choose," the being replied. "We are the arbiters. We have watched countless worlds develop. Every species reaches this point, where technology outpaces wisdom. Most destroy themselves. A few transcend their violent nature." The arbiter moved around the room, studying each person. No one dared to move. We have watched your kind for millennia, it continued, from your first steps out of caves, through your wars and achievements. This is your final assessment. General Choi stepped forward, standing tall despite the fear visible in his eyes. By what right do you judge us? He demanded. We were defending ourselves. The Arbiter turned its mirror-like eyes to him. Against what threat, General Choi Minho? We had taken no hostile action. Your presence itself is a threat, the General argued. You appeared without warning, with technology far beyond ours. Just as your species would do to less advanced worlds, if given the chance, the Arbiter replied. We have studied your military plans. Your space forces are designed not just for defense, but for domination. Hannah moved closer to the Arbiter. You said this is our final assessment. What does that mean? What happens if we fail? Each species is given 3 chances to join the galactic community, the Arbiter explained. Your first chance came during your Bronze Age, your second during your Industrial Revolution. Both times, you chose war over cooperation. This is your final opportunity. The room grew very quiet. Even General Choi seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. And if we fail again? Ambassador Kang asked softly. Then you remain isolated, left alone until you either destroy yourselves or evolve beyond your violent nature. Most species in your position do not survive. President Park looked around at the other leaders, then back to the Arbiter. You speak of choice, but one man made this decision, not humanity as a whole, she said, glancing at General Choi. Is that fair judgment? The Arbiter's expression didn't change. His action represents tendencies within your species. But you are correct. Judgment has not been finalized. That is why we are here now, face to face, to offer you one last chance to demonstrate your potential. How? Hannah asked. How do we show you we deserve a place in this greater community? That, said the Arbiter, is what you must determine. Show us that humanity can choose cooperation over conflict, wisdom over weapons. You have begun this test poorly, but it is not yet complete. The beam's form began to shimmer, becoming less solid. Representatives of your world will be selected to learn more. Prepare yourselves. The final phase begins. With those words, the Arbiter vanished, leaving the leaders of Earth staring at empty space, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. The selection happened without warning. In the middle of the night, 3 humans vanished from their beds and reappeared somewhere else entirely. Hannah, General Choi, and Ambassador Kang found themselves standing together in a vast chamber that seemed to have no walls, ceiling, or floor. The space around them glowed softly, stretching infinitely in all directions. Where are we? Ambassador Kang whispered, her voice somehow not echoing despite the vast space. On their ship, I think, Hannah replied, turning slowly to take in the impossible room. General Choi remained silent, his military training evident in his rigid posture and watchful eyes. He wore the same clothes he had slept in, simple pants and a t-shirt, making him look strangely ordinary without his uniform and medals. Before they could speak further, the air before them shimmered. An Arbiter appeared, the same kind of being that had visited Earth. Up close, its skin looked like it contained galaxies, swirling with tiny points of light. You represent the different paths humanity might take, the Arbiter said. The warrior, the peacemaker, and the bridge between worlds. Why us? Asked Hannah. There are billions of humans. You each stand at pivotal positions in your global response, the Arbiter explained, and each of you carries the potential to change many minds. The Arbiter moved forward, its movements fluid and graceful. Your species stands at a crossroads. For 300,000 years, you have waged war against yourselves. You have developed weapons that can destroy your planet many times over, yet you still fight over resources that, properly managed, could sustain all of you. General Choi finally spoke. War has pushed human innovation. Without conflict, we might still be living in caves. A common justification. The Arbiter replied. but not unique to your kind. Many species believed the same before their extinction. The air around them shimmered again. Suddenly, they were no longer in the empty chamber, but standing on a vast plain. Men fought with spears and stones around them, yet no one seemed to notice the three observers. "This is not an illusion," the Arbiter said. "We have brought you into your past." They watched in horror as humans killed humans. Then the scene changed. They stood among Roman legions, then medieval knights, then soldiers with muskets, then modern armies with tanks and planes. The weapons changed, but the results remained the same: death, suffering, destruction. "This is your past," the Arbiter said as bodies piled higher with each new battlefield. Hannah felt sick. Beside her, Ambassador Kang wept silently. General Choi's face had turned pale, but he watched without looking away. "All species fight," he said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "It's natural." "Natural does not mean inevitable," the Arbiter countered. The scenes changed again. Now they witnessed moments of human cooperation, the building of great cities, scientific discoveries, art, and music created by people working together. "Your potential remains vast," the Arbiter said. "Now, observe your possible futures." The air shifted once more. They stood on Earth, but not the Earth they knew. Cities burned. Mushroom clouds bloomed across continents. The air turned black with smoke. The oceans rose to swallow coastlines. Humans fought over scraps of food in the ruins of once great civilizations. "This is one path," said the Arbiter. Ambassador Kang covered her mouth. "Is this certain?" "No. It is merely probable if current patterns continue." The scene changed again. This time, they saw a different Earth. Cities gleamed with clean energy. Forests had regrown. People of all kinds worked together. Great ships rose into space, carrying humans to distant stars. "This is the alternative path," the Arbiter explained. "Both remain possible for your kind, but the time for choice is now." General Choi had not spoken for some time. As they watched humans exploring new worlds, working together to solve problems, his stern face changed. For the first time since Hannah had known him, the general looked uncertain. "How?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "How do we change the course of our entire species?" "The same way species always change. Through example, through leadership, through choice," the Arbiter replied. The visions disappeared. They stood once more in the infinite chamber. "I've spent my life preparing for war," General Choi said quietly. "I believed I was protecting my people." "Many warriors believe the same," the Arbiter said. "The question is, what will you believe now, having seen what you've seen?" The general didn't answer. He fell to his knees, and to the surprise of both women, tears streamed down his face. The man who had nearly started an interstellar war wept openly as he witnessed the full consequences of humanity's path. "All those lives," he whispered, "all that suffering." Hannah knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We can change it. We have to." Ambassador Kang joined them. "If we three can agree, perhaps our world can too." The Arbiter watched them, its expression unreadable. "You begin to understand. This is why you were chosen." "What happens now?" Hannah asked. "What do you want us to do?" "Return to your world. Share what you have learned. Guide your people toward the better path." "They won't believe us," General Choi said, wiping his tears. "They'll think we're lying or crazy." "Some will," the Arbiter agreed. "Others will listen. Enough to matter, perhaps." The chamber began to glow more brightly. "You have 30 days, the Arbiter announced. "Show us that you choose peace, or you will be isolated from the galactic community until your inevitable self-destruction." 30 days isn't enough," protested Ambassador Kang. "Changing the course of an entire planet takes time." "We do not ask for complete transformation," the Arbiter clarified. "Only clear evidence that humanity has chosen to begin the journey. Small steps can signal great changes." Before they could ask more questions, the light grew blindingly bright. Remember what you've seen, the Arbiter's voice echoed. The choice belongs to all of you now. When the light faded, the three humans found themselves back on Earth, standing together at the ancient observatory in Korea, where one of the crystal ships still hovered. Dawn was breaking over the hills. They looked at each other, forever changed by what they had witnessed. "We have work to do," General Choi said softly. "And not much time." Hana and Ambassador Kang stood before the emergency session of the United Nations. Every seat was filled. World leaders listened carefully as the two women explained what they had witnessed aboard the alien vessel. "Where is General Choi?" asked the American president. "He chose to remain with the Arbiters," Ambassador Kang explained. "His last words to us were, 'I need to understand what we almost lost.' The man who wanted to attack them is now learning from them." Many leaders looked skeptical. Some whispered that the general had been taken prisoner or worse. "We have 30 days, Hana said firmly. 30 days to show the Arbiters that humanity chooses peace over war. If we fail, they will leave us alone, to eventually destroy ourselves. And if we succeed?" asked the German chancellor. "Then we join a community of advanced civilizations," Hana replied. "We take our first steps into a larger universe." The debate that followed lasted hours. Some nations refused to believe. Others wanted proof. A few demanded military action. But the majority listened. The Arbiters had made their power clear. They could have destroyed Earth, but chose not to. "We need a plan," Ambassador Kang said. "Something concrete to show our commitment to peace." They created a 30-day roadmap. It began with small steps, halting military exercises, opening borders for humanitarian aid, sharing medical research. Each day would build on the last. The transformation began slowly. Old enemies still watched each other with suspicion, but the presence of the crystal ships in orbit reminded everyone of what was at stake. On the 5th day, something remarkable happened. India and Pakistan announced they would remove troops from their disputed border. By the 10th day, they were discussing shared water resources instead of pointing weapons at each other. Other changes followed. North and South Korea opened talks. Israel and Palestine agreed to a ceasefire. Russia and Ukraine established peace zones. "It's working," Hana told Ambassador Kang on day 15. "Slowly, but it's working." Not everyone supported the changes. Some military leaders wanted to fight the Arbiters. Religious extremists claimed the aliens were demons. But for each voice of hate, more voices called for cooperation. Scientists from rival nations began working together on global problems. Climate research accelerated. Medical breakthroughs were shared freely. Food production technologies spread to hungry regions. Military budgets were redirected. Weapons factories converted to building clean energy systems. Soldiers helped rebuild damaged environments. On day 20, the Arbiters made their presence more visible. Their crystal ships descended lower in the atmosphere, visible to millions. They did not speak or interfere. They simply observed. When small conflicts threatened to erupt, the memory of what Hana and Ambassador Kang had described, the visions of Earth's potential destruction, kept cooler heads prevailing. World leaders who had seen war now worked for peace. For the first time in recorded history, not a single human died in armed conflict for 20 consecutive days. Then 25. Then 29. On the 30th day, people around the world waited anxiously. Had they done enough? Would the Arbiters recognize their efforts? As sunset moved across the globe, the mothership in orbit began to glow more brightly. Then something unexpected happened. A single transport vessel descended toward the UN headquarters in New York. When it landed, General Choi emerged. But he was changed. The stern military man looked younger somehow, his eyes filled with wonder instead of suspicion. He walked with purpose toward the assembly of world leaders. "They have shown me wonders beyond imagination," he told the silent room. "Cures for diseases we thought incurable. Energy sources that would end scarcity forever. And thousands of civilizations waiting to welcome us, if we prove worthy." He described planets where different species lived in harmony. He explained how civilizations had overcome the same challenges facing Earth. He spoke of stars that humans could one day visit. "I was wrong," he said simply. "War is not our destiny. It is merely our past." As he finished speaking, the screens around the room lit up with a message from the arbiters. "The test period ends now. Humanity has taken first steps toward a better path. The choice is made." Around the world, people watched their screens and waited. The massive mothership in orbit glowed brilliantly, then seemed to fold inward, disappearing in a flash of light. Had they failed? Had the arbiters left them alone? Then observers noticed something remaining in orbit. Not the mothership, but a smaller vessel, sleek and beautiful, clearly designed for travel between stars. A final message appeared on screens worldwide. "You have chosen wisely. This is just the beginning. The vessel left in your orbit is our gift, your first true starship. It contains knowledge to help you continue your journey. We will return when you are ready for the next step." In the UN chamber, leaders stood in stunned silence. Then Ambassador Kang began to applaud. Others joined her until the room filled with sound. Hana turned to General Choi. "What happens now?" "Now we truly begin," he said with a smile. "The starship contains plans for clean energy, medical advances, and faster-than-light travel. But it also contains a warning. We must maintain peace or lose everything." In the days that followed, international teams prepared to board the alien vessel. Scientists, diplomats, and yes, even military personnel trained to represent Earth in its first journey beyond the solar system. The crystal ships above the ancient sites remained, silent observers and reminders of the choice humanity had made. Earth had passed the test. After millennia of war, humans had finally chosen peace when it mattered most. The path to the stars was open at last. Children looked up at the night sky with new understanding. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were destinations, homes to civilizations that might one day be friends. The message of the arbiters spread across the planet. Choose war, face the consequences. Choose peace, and the universe opens before you. Humanity had made its choice. The consequences were hope, wonder, and a future among the stars. The end.